Hello and welcome to all. My name is Sabine Danielle. I'm the moderator of this panel, Connected Innovation for Connected World. Please welcome our speaker, Jim Perschbach, President and CEO. And it's your turn, Jim.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you all for having us here today. We're really excited to talk about connected innovation because we are living in a world where there are so many opportunities. The world gets more connected, there are going to be more opportunities, but it's all going to come and it's all going to be great. And we are really excited because today we just announced this new project. And I hope you can see the screen in front of you. What you are looking at right in front of that big, beautiful 727 is the Xyrex Robot. It is a 22 meter, I'm looking for my metric because I'm a lowly American and use imperial, a 22 meter robot with a 20 kilowatt laser attached to it. It's absolutely huge. But here's what it does. It can take the paint off of that aircraft. It can take the paint off of a car or off of a ship. And in doing so on an aircraft, it saves about 1,800 liters of chemicals, about 14 cubic meters of water, and most important, about 27 metric tons of carbon dioxide. It is a truly, truly amazing device. And the other thing it does, you see some people walking around in front of that airplane. The traditional way of taking the paint off of an airplane would have about 20 to 30 people walking all over that airplane, spraying chemicals and water on it with a fall risk. This robot saves that. It eliminates the occupational risk. And it's just one of the opportunities that we see for applied technology to make the world a better place. And why is that here? Oops, shot the wrong one. Well, at Port San Antonio, where I'm speaking to you from, we've been working on airplanes and making them better for over 100 years. That's an FA-18 that's being worked on just down the street from us. We've also been doing work with computers, communications, and cyber technologies for about 80 years now. About 2 years ago, we decided we were going to focus on education. And what you're looking at is a simulator security operations center. And those are some students from one of the local middle schools. And what they're doing is learning how a security operations center can be used to protect networks, to protect utilities, to protect all sorts of critical infrastructure. What you can't see in that picture, just to the left of those students, is the world's largest musical Tesla coil display. And if I were there looking at you and I could communicate with you, I'd ask you how many folks know what a Tesla coil is or what Tesla does. But Nikolai Tesla, and I know I don't pronounce that correctly, over 120 years ago demonstrated that electricity can be transmitted wirelessly. We use that here in the museum to play music. If you put some disruptors on those coils, the disruptors will send out sparks, and the sparks will create little bits of thunder that can then be attuned to play musical scores. We can do everything from big fancy concerts all the way down to playing your favorite video game jingle. But what it really does, if you take the disruptors off of those devices, they will wirelessly, soundlessly transmit electricity. And that opens up a huge opportunity. We have known for a long, long time that some solar collecting satellites placed above the Earth could transmit power back down anywhere on the planet, anywhere that you can get a signal. That's a little bit more complex than that, but not much more complex. It's just a matter of getting a big solar collector up into orbit, aiming that at the sun, which isn't difficult to do when you're sitting in orbit, and getting the power back down to Earth. And imagine what we can do with that type of true space-based power generation. All the concerns we have about terrestrial power generation go away. The difficulty of bringing power to remote parts of the planet are eliminated because one of the most costly parts about any power generation network is the wires, the connections that have to be built between them. The other thing that we can do is we can start to use that massive power generation to power water. We can generate water out of ambient air, out of the humidity in the air. But the challenge is, how do we get it up there? For decades, it has been somewhat on the back burner because the cost of manufacturing one of those satellites on Earth and shooting it up into space has been, and forgive the pun, astronomical. But what if we could build those satellites on the moon? It's about 1/6 of the gravity, and it's a lot easier to launch from there. The first question is, how do you do it? And what you're looking at is a picture of some robots and an artist's impression about how those robots would build a lunar manufacturing station on the moon. And it's great to talk about that, but how on earth do we get to that point? What you're seeing in front of you is the step that we're going to take here in San Antonio to try and get us there to space. And that doesn't look like much. It looks like any other arena that you might see anywhere on the planet. And we call that our Innovation Center. In that building, which is being built right in the center of our campus, we are going to have a relatively good-sized arena, an entertainment arena, an educational arena, a gaming arena, a food hall, and a museum and showplace, an educational connector. And here's the point. We want to be able to attract hundreds of thousands of people to this campus every year. Have them come down and see what's going on with space, with aviation, with power generation, match them up with educational opportunities, and for buyers and sellers, put them in a place where they can start to work together. That's just a shot of what the inside of the arena is going to look like, configured for a gaming competition. On the back wall, you can see some of those Tesla coils. We've got them set up to spark rather than power. And right here, you have the basic concept of what this facility is designed to do. And I show you what we're doing at the port only to show you that there is a massive opportunity throughout the world to do this. The first challenge, whenever you're trying to create innovation, is to get people there. And so with the entertainment offerings, with the gaming hall, what we are trying to do is attract hundreds of thousands of people to this space and force them to interact with each other. We do that by creating an environment that people want to spend time in. It's not just the gaming arena and the conference halls. It's also the opportunity to match them up with people who might have a different skill set. For example, if you're going to try and build robots to go to the moon, you're going to need people with capabilities in astrophysics, in space manufacturing, in robotics and communication, all of which require different skill sets. And then, of course, the showroom so that we can show off what is being developed here. This isn't just pie in the sky. We've done this already with 4 companies. I want to talk about a couple of them. The first one's a little outfit called Reckon Point. And what you are looking at is their little robot that they have built. That robot on the top is a LiDAR array, a laser imaging and distance device that can measure spaces. And Gabe Garza, who founded that company, his original idea was to send that robot into buildings that didn't have blueprints so he could measure the space. But when he came to this campus and started to meet people, he realized that there were applications he had never thought of. This little robot can measure spaces within centimeters of accuracy from anywhere on the planet or frankly anywhere in the world. And he met up with some folks who are developing what's called the Lunar Caves Project. And they're working here with the WEX Foundation over in our little museum and showplace. The idea is using the caves, the old lava tubes on the moon, as that first base for a lunar manufacturing facility. Well, that robot doesn't weigh a whole much. It weighs about 40 pounds, and I don't know exactly how many kilograms or how many kilos that is, but it's not much. And that is something that will be relatively easy to launch to the moon, to launch to Mars, or frankly to send to remote places on this planet to measure space without actually having to send a human being up there. The second one's a little outfit called +One Robotics. Now, industrial robots have been around for decades. They're really not new and amazing technology, but they've always had a single limitation. They are blind, and they can only do the same repetitive task over and over and over again, and they really need to do it in a very controlled environment. What the people at +One Robotics have developed is a suite of software that can be installed into these robots. The first piece of software allows the robot some level of feeling. It's not feeling as you or I would know it, but it allows them to know what they are actually touching. The second one is a visual system. It doesn't allow them to see the way that humans see, but it allows them to see in 3D and allows them to have a better sense as to what they are moving. The third piece is an artificial intelligence that allows the robot to learn and to communicate with other robots that have the software installed. And the fourth piece, and it's really an amazing piece, is the supervised autonomy. The robot is off in a remote environment, but it's always under the supervision of a human being here. That is an application that is now starting to be used quite heavily in logistics here on Earth. But when you think about manufacturing on the moon, when you think about manufacturing in the Arctic or the Antarctic, those aren't controlled environments. And having that type of supervised autonomy allows you to get there. Eventually, you're going to have to send people to the moon. Eventually, you're going to have to send people to parts of the world that are not quite as hospitable as the parts that we've already brought utilities to. And that's where this little company called Knight Aerospace comes into play. What they are developing is flying medical pods. These pods can be installed into any type of aircraft or any type of system and bring a true world-class hospital and medical environment anywhere that you can get the aircraft or get the system. And when you start to send people, whether it's to the moon, whether it's to orbit, whether it's somewhere on the planet that just doesn't quite have those resources yet, what this does is allow you to send the people there and allow the people to do the work. And fundamentally, taking it back to Earth, this is the most important part. Because all of this space-based power generation, the communications with satellites, the use of lasers, the use of robotics that we're talking about, is really designed to make the world a better place. A place that's friendlier to human beings and a place that makes a lot more access to us. And if we can do that, what we can do is capture the resources that are available on this planet, which will generate wealth. Here in Texas, there are still areas that don't have electricity. There are still areas that don't have water brought to them. And these new technologies open the door to bring those resources there. There are natural resources and rare earth minerals all over this planet that are difficult to reach, but these new technologies will allow us to reach it. And most important, it will take human beings out of having to do the jobs that are dirty, degrading, or generous, and allow them to do the type of work that frankly is of higher value, allow them to get paid more for their effort, and increase the wealth and the value of their services, which makes the entire world a better place. And with that, I'm going to stop real quickly to answer any questions that folks might have or to have a conversation, or I can go back and talk a little bit more about some of the projects that we have underway. So, are there any questions? Are there any thoughts that anybody might have? And I can't hear a word you're saying, ma'am.
Oh, no. Well, do you hear me now?
I do now.
Great. Well, first of all, people were saying how impressive your presentation was. So that's kudos for you.
Thank you.
And your team. First question was, how important has collaboration between sectors, meaning public and private, been to building out the innovation ecosystem at Port San Antonio in the region?
It is absolutely the single most important part. If you look at every one of those new technologies that is being built here at Port San Antonio, and I'm sure it's the same case around the world, none of them would have been feasible without collaboration, without people with different skills and different talents coming together. Take the reckon point system, the measuring system, for example. There have been people at NASA who have been working on this lunar caves project for a long, long time. And there were a lot of questions about how on earth, forgive the pun, can we get up there and measure that space without having a human being doing it? Well, what Gabe Garza and his team have developed is a way to do that robotically and automatically. But Gabe had no idea about the possibility of using that system for a lunar application or for a remote application in the Arctic or Antarctic. It really required people to come together. With the laser depaint system, the Xyrex system, now that's an absolute example of needing a lot of people with a lot of different disciplines. When Peter Boink from the Netherlands came up with that idea, what he knew was that the traditional ways of stripping an airplane just didn't make a lot of sense. They were dangerous and they were environmentally risky. But by working together with people who know airplanes, who know lasers, who know robotics, who know manufacturing, he was able to build this massive 22-meter robot. I mean, the thing is huge. It is terrifying, with a 20-kilowatt laser attached to it, and have people who know airplanes be able to develop when to turn that laser on and off. So as it moves down the surface of the airplane, it is really high power on metal, turned off entirely when it touches rubber or a sensitive antenna, and then turns on at a different strength when it goes over a composite area. So the collaboration and the bringing people together is absolutely important. The other thing that is really important is to make sure that people believe they can do this. In San Antonio, and I've grown up around the world, there is always a belief that you can't do something. And the focus on education, the focus on inspiring people, is we want people to know when they come to this campus, when they go to other places in the world, there's no reason that you can't do it, as long as you see the opportunity and are given a path of access to that opportunity.
Great. Other question. San Antonio is recognized globally as a hub for cybersecurity, innovation, and excellence. How does partnership, both nationally and internationally, fit into the San Antonio plan for the future?
We really want to have more people working on cybersecurity. We do cybersecurity very well in San Antonio, but there is this myth that cybersecurity is its own industry and stands as its own bubble, and that doesn't work. What you need to do is apply cybersecurity to everything. In financial services, they have developed a risk management strategy of cybersecurity that is really, really interesting. Instead of the wall system that governments have used all over the world, having a separate network for secure information, the financial industry, the banking industry, has people banking off of their phones, banking off of their computers at home. There are an awful lot of new techniques and new talents that can be used that will allow digitalization, will allow access to information more freely and more efficiently. But the only way to make that happen is to bring in other talents. We've been really, really excited. There's a woman up there in Canada, Catherine Thompson, who's become a dear friend, but really excited by a lot of the talents and capabilities in Canada. It's Canada's focus internationally, Canada's focus on innovation and new ways of thinking that we think will add a tremendous amount of value to our traditional way of looking at cybersecurity.
Things are changing so fast. Other question, how do you bring the gray matters mass in San Antonio to create this environment?
You've got to inspire people. There are some people who just really like computers. There's some people who really like airplanes, but there aren't many of us. I didn't know a thing about computers until a couple of years ago. I was just an airplane guy. But by matching these people up, you create the opportunities. We're doing that by creating things that people like. So in that innovation center, we're going to have an awful lot of gaming competitions, an awful lot of bright lights, a lot of things that try and attract people, young people and not so young people over, so that we can show them that there is an opportunity. There's something that they want to do. That little museum, I mentioned it and show the picture of those middle school kids there. Mm-hmm. We opened that in a tiny little chapel on this property about 3 years ago. And a lot of people said we were crazy. Why are you going to do that on an old air base so far away from downtown? We're only 8 miles, about 5 kilometers away from downtown. But they still said, why would you do that? Well, we have had tens of thousands of young people go through programs. We have had companies start up because they met each other there. There have been a group called the SA Texas Robotics Meetup, and it's about 80, 90 people who get together routinely, and they bring in their robots and they bring in their concepts, and it has allowed new innovation to start. And it's allowed us an opportunity to start to direct these people, whether it's to jobs, whether it's to buyers, whether it's to sellers, or whether it's to a better education. But the most important part, you can't inspire somebody until you actually bring them in and show them something. So you got to attract them first.
It's a little bit difficult with COVID right now.
It is. And I tell you, you know, we're going to get past this COVID. The world has gone through these things before. And what inspires me is I hope we come out of this knowing that we are stronger as a planet. We are stronger as countries when people work together rather than trying to push against each other. Mm-hmm. There are a lot, we haven't even come close to getting all the resources on this planet, much less the resources available to us in the solar system yet.
As you know, in San Antonio, there's a lot of incentive to get new people, young people to come. What would be the incentive that you would recommend people in Montreal and Canada to implement so we could have the same innovation here in Canada?
Connect people. You know, we have added in 2.5 years, we have added 3,700 jobs to this campus. Wow. Almost all in really high value careers, robotics, cybersecurity, aviation. Only 50 of those jobs got any type of public incentive. The real incentive has been our investment in education. We spend a lot of money every year on educational programs, on getting education out to people. The museum has an old bus that they have converted into a classroom that they drive out to housing projects all throughout San Antonio and the region. We have, I think, 10 or 20,000 young people who have gone through classes here on the campus, and then matching them up with opportunities. And what we found is investing in people is a lot more successful in terms of returns on investment than trying to invest in the companies. The companies will go where they know they are going to be successful. And for us, our little campus is 1,900 acres. I don't know how many that is in metric, but it's not very big. But on this campus, you can match up with people who are going to buy what you're selling, which attracts a lot of people who are innovative and want to sell into those markets. And it's a place where if you're a big company and you're looking for a solution, well, you want to come down here to the marketplace because you know you've got a good chance of finding that solution. Within our innovation center, we don't talk about the buildings on this campus. When we go out to trade conferences, we don't talk about our runways or our office buildings. We talk about the capabilities that we have. And what that does is that attracts people. And if we can grow those companies and grow those environments, then we found that to be tremendously successful.
And what's your plans for the future?
To continue growing. The innovation center that you saw will be up and operational in a little over a year. And we're really excited about that. We're already planning about what some of the initial conferences are. In fact, we'd love to have you down here once we open that up and once COVID is behind us. Definitely. We're going to continue building buildings. We're going to continue trying to attract these types of innovative solutions. What we really want to see, though, is I don't want to just be talking about space-based power generation. I don't want to just be talking about bringing resources to part of the planet that don't have it right now so that we can better use those resources and better grow wealth. I want to start seeing these new resources actually get utilized. And so we're very excited about seeing these come on live. That laser robot that we talked about,
Yes.
Just announced it this morning. You're some of the first people on the planet to hear about it.
Yay.
But it's been in the works for about 5 years. And pretty soon it's going to go into service, and we're excited about continuing the story. And then we're excited about what that's going to do for the world. Imagine if you take 27 metric tons of carbon dioxide out of the emissions process for every airplane you do, and there's 125,000 airplanes in the world. That's a major impact on greenhouse gases right there. And all those people that used to have to climb all over that airplane, who are in danger of falling down, who are exposed to toxic chemicals, now they can go do more valuable parts of the aircraft maintenance. Whereas for the owner of that airplane, they get their airplane back 60% faster, which means they can pay more for those services, which allows the companies to pay their employees more. It's just win-win-win across the board.
Yeah, we love win-win-win situations. Last question. Has COVID impacted the way in which you lead and your outlook for the future?
It has. Right now, the biggest challenge that we have is what we're doing, this kind of remote conference. I hate them. I can't see anybody. I can see you, and I can interact with you.
It's a challenge.
It is a challenge, and it is really, really difficult to innovate remotely. I know there's a lot of talk about remote work being the wave of the future. And when it comes to innovation, particularly in a world where you have to incorporate new technologies into existing materials, existing platforms, it just doesn't work. So we are really excited about the fact that if we've learned anything, it's how important it is that we work with our neighbors, with our friends and people around the world.
Well, I definitely thought the presentation was impressive. I wasn't the only one. And the panel, people were excited, were passionate. And also, thank you for all this innovation. I think it's really inspiring people to grow, to push, to think outside of the box, and to come to San Antonio to see what's done differently, to bring it back here in Canada.
Well, thank you so much for having us. And I hope to get back to Canada soon. It's one of my favorite places on the planet. So thank you all so much.
Thank you very much. And thank you for everybody that participated. We're looking forward to connect with him and to continue innovation here in Canada and across the world.